Last week, we began our conversation with Timmy Bauer and Cassie Johansen about performance-led teaching and learning. We talked about how G.K. Chesterton was right when he said, "Fairy tales do not tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children that dragons can be killed." So let's talk about the power of connecting personal experience to academic knowledge. And as we think about killing dragons, mathematician Alfred North Whitehead wrote in 1929, "The attempt to educate a person by merely focusing on objective content, on inert ideas, scraps of information, bare knowledge, while disregarding the subjective form or emotional pattern of the person's experience can never be successful." How does performance-led teaching and storytelling incorporate the student's own emotions and experiences, Cassie?
I think anytime you tell a story, there's always someone who can connect to it. Yeah. And that's very true in performance-led teaching. If you're storytelling within that, you may not be able to connect every single child or every single student of yours, whether they be an adult or a child, but someone's going to connect to what you're telling them, and it's based on their experiences, which draw on emotions.
I mean, because I think about your other subjects you teach, like math. I do appreciate
I have emotions about math.
There's a lot of people who have emotions about math.
Yes.
And I feel like I do a really awesome job at making their emotions not negative.
There you go.
I feel like I do a really awesome job. And I guess I do a little bit of performance-based during math because I approach math with an upbeat, positive attitude, and sometimes we make it silly and talk about the silly side of math, which is the negative side, but we don't make it negative. We make it silly.
And I guess I love this quote because this is a mathematician
know.
saying there's no way we can teach this dry scraps of information, this bare knowledge, unless you connect it with a personal experience.
Right. Right. Well, and I do that, I guess, when we're teaching different math concepts, because I'm teaching them how to do math, learning multiplication and division. When I'm teaching fractions, I always tie it to me loving pizza. And every word problem is revolving around me and pizza. So the kids learn very quickly that, hey, fractions totally have to do with food. Yeah. So, and who doesn't like food?
Right.
So you're drawing on those emotions.
I love it.
All right, Timmy, you don't have a class day in and day out to know the emotions of those students. How do you incorporate the students' own emotions and experiences into a performance?
Yeah, I think from the perspective of an author, like if I can't find common ground with kids' emotional experiences, I'm not going to make books that sell. Like I'm not going to make books that they really engage with.
Perfect, yeah.
One of the books that I made called Harper Hears No, there is a part in the book where Harper clearly does the wrong thing. And then she does not tell her mom when her mom asks her about her day. And I really wanted to build, after that moment, this strong feeling of dread in her about the idea of confessing what she did to her mom. So I take like 2 pages just on building the feeling of dread. And I really try to build it so that I can get the kids that are listening to me to feel that dread as well. Because they've all probably experienced times where they knew they messed up and either their mom's going to find out or they got to tell them.
I can't wait to read your book now. 2 pages of dread. That sounds that sounds very emotionally charged. I love that. Well, Raymond Teller, who's part of the duo Penn and Teller, was a Latin teacher for 6 years. Who knew? Before he became a magician. And he states, the first job of a teacher is to make the student fall in love with the subject. That doesn't have to be done by waving your arms and prancing around the classroom. There are all sorts of ways to go at it. But no matter what, you are a symbol of the subject in the student's minds. How can those not necessarily geared toward the arts, because not all of us are these grand performers, but how can we better incorporate performance into teaching, Timmy?
That's great. So my mind immediately goes to just some practical things that just about anybody could do. And again, I'm thinking with literacy specifically in mind, like reading and writing kids' books, that kind of thing. But like if you can just add any inflection to your voice when you're reading as a character, that's one thing that goes a long way. I would say another very simple, practical thing is don't sit down when you read to kids, stand and move around, so that you can make eye contact and get close and get far. And there's just more dynamic to what you're doing Like, those are two things that even if you don't have a performance background, those are not too hard to incorporate.
Perfect. Those are great. Very simple, easy 1-2 punches for anyone to be able to add that performance. Excellent. What about you, Cassie?
Let the kids perform.
So take the role off the teacher.
If you're not comfortable being a performer, I'm very fortunate. I come from a long line of people who are dramatic and performers.
You're kidding.
But not, I know, it's insane. But if you don't and you are not comfortable, let the kids do it. For example, I love the idea of walking around reading the book because naturally you're going to be more involved. But if you're not comfortable, give the book to a kid. Kids are natural performers, most of them. Let them perform. If you have enough of kids performing in your room, eventually it's going to spark you.
I love that. I love that. 3 really great tips. This is very practical.
For sure. Yeah.
Very practical.
The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. So says high school teacher Ellen Parr. So how do we balance the facts with performance-led teaching? Is there a time and place for different kinds of teaching? What are some strategies that have worked for you, Cassie?
I don't think there's, I hope my principal doesn't hear this. I don't think there's ever a time to not perform. And when I say that, performance doesn't need to be exciting and upbeat. Performance can be very somber and emotional. I think real quick to September 11th, I'm not sitting there jumping up and down, standing on tables talking. It is a very raw, emotional conversation I have with my students. But I think that's a performance unto itself. So I do think there's always a place for it. It just depends on how you deliver it.
Okay. So delivery and emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
What do you think, Timmy?
This might be the wrong answer, but I always put the pressure on myself to pull the students in rather than expect anything to push them in.
Yeah.
So if I don't have their focus, in my opinion, that's my fault. There's very few exceptions to that. Like if a kid is being particularly disruptive, I'll have them go stand over by the teacher while I'm giving a performance. But for the most part, I just think that it's my job to pull them in.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Pull students in, not push.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, excellent. All right. So, Timmy, when has there been a lesson that is either gone right or gone wrong in your teaching experience or your performance, and what was your personal takeaway or reflection?
Ooh, that's such a great question. Oh, man. Is there any way we could toss it over to Cassie first?
Sure.
I used to have this professor, every time we'd ask, somebody would say something like, that's a great question. He'd say, you better have a great answer.
All right, we're going to give you a few minutes.
I got you. A lesson has gone right or wrong. I think.
All right, here comes the
No, I just think like my first couple of years of teaching. I don't know if there's like a specific time, but I know I made so many mistakes in just what I was teaching and how I was teaching it because I was young and I didn't know. And I definitely sat back and realized some of the concept that I was teaching was really boring. There is only so many ways you can teach Native American cultural regions without making it fun and exciting. Because the kids are like, cool, great, this is fun. And I know I was terrible at it. So I remember my second year of teaching, thinking back, being like, okay, last year wasn't great. What am I going to do? And it was literally a matter of just pretending it was super fun and exciting.
Yeah.
And then I think gone really right would be, I love to transform my classroom. My classroom right now looks like a westward expansion explosion. We have a transcontinental railroad on the floor. We have 2 tables that have been converted into Conestoga wagons. We have a saloon door that I painted. And westward expansion, the material they need to learn, not that exciting. But when you walk in as a 10-year-old to a classroom that looks like that, suddenly it's really exciting. And the kids can't wait for social studies. Yeah. So I wouldn't even say it's just a lesson. It's an entire unit these kids are thrilled about, which is hilarious because the material is kind of boring. But we made it fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like Timmy's example with all of the lessons the moms wanted the kids to learn, but you put it with potty humor and hey. You got a hit.
Absolutely. And before I even started teaching Westward Expansion, I was reading Little House on the Prairie to them. And we would watch the very first episode of Little House on the Prairie. So these kids had heard a book, seen a video, and then they walk into that, and my goodness, life is amazing.
How about that?
You think you are Mary and Laura right about that
You
point,
do.
right? Yeah.
You do. You walk in there, you're like, yes, we are heading west right now.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Timmy, did that give you some time?
Okay, so I've got one, but it's just so specific to like being a writer. So hopefully there's some writer listeners that maybe could hear this and maybe it could help them. So I don't know if you guys have ever done this where you're reading a kid's book to one of your children and there's just so much text on the page that you just kind of look at the pictures and you make up what it should say in like one or two sentences. Have any of you guys ever done that?
Yes.
That is what the page should have said. So whoever wrote that, in my opinion, is so harsh, did a bad job because they put so much text on that page that didn't need to be there. And I made this mistake first round of Billy the Dragon. So my first printing of Billy the Dragon was double the number of words that it is today. Fortunately, I got signed to a literary agent and I got some great feedback and I did a reprinting and everything. And the version I have today is so much better because all the fat's been trimmed off of it. But there was just so much words per page. It did not need to be there. And the way I realized that is because when I would perform it, I knew the parts that I had to work so extremely hard on to maintain their focus. And there was just too much exposition there. So again, that's just such a specific thing, but it was a big learning experience for me.
Well, I think that's something a lot of people who start writing picture books come to, right? We don't really understand that the picture communicates. The words almost at first are window dressing to the picture, right? Yeah, I think a lot of people want to write a paragraph or 2 or 3 paragraphs on rather than recognizing this is a place for 1 to 3 sentences max. I think that just about every children's book writer does that at first.
That's a good point. I think we've all sat in that class or maybe been in that movie. We're going, you know what? This could have been an hour long. We didn't need all the fluff. Right. Or, Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, wah, wah. The words just kind of wash over your head and it's just too much teacher talk. We've put too many words in there and we've lost everybody. And so I think actually, Timmy, that's a great reflection. And Cassie, I love how you were able to make something exciting that isn't really as exciting as maybe it would be in a dry lecture.
Yes.
For sure.
Well, what's a metaphor to help us understand the connection between performance and learning? Timmy?
Oh, no, not me. I don't have a metaphor. Cassie, can you say my butt one more time?
I'll try. A metaphor, but to understand the importance. Honestly, this is going to sound really simple and stupid, but performance is learning. I mean, as simple as that, especially with kids, think of a child's mind, especially kids today. They need that quick something to hook them. Otherwise, they're checked out. That's how video games are so quick and fiery, and TV is so quick in their firing of pictures at the kids. And that's what performance is in the classroom. You better be quick and you better be exciting. If you're not exciting, you better be memorable. So I think performance is learning because you're going to learn regardless of what is being presented to you, if it's being presented in a performance-based way.
Yeah, and this may be the learning of, as you were saying, even with math, they may learn even more that they don't like the subject if it's not presented in a way that's positive. So that converse is also true. You're always teaching something through your performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything, Timmy?
This is such a stupid metaphor, but performance is like the sugar in the thing that you're baking. It's like, it's the addictive substance that makes us want to keep eating what we're eating.
Speaking as someone who made 2 pumpkin pies without any sweetener in them earlier this week, that's a perfect metaphor.
Yeah, awesome. Like who would eat a pumpkin pie without sweetener in it?
Well, I have.
I know, but still,
It's disgusting.
It's not very performance exciting. I mean,
I had to take eggnog and pour it on top of it. And that improved matters a lot.
There you go.
So I think that performance is like the eggnog on top of the unsweetened pumpkin pie.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, this has been an entertaining and educational conversation with Timmy Bauer and Cassie Johansen. And Timmy, can you tell us a little bit about your books and where to find you? And if anybody wants to have you come to the school, all that kind of good stuff, can you go ahead and share all about how people can get in touch with you and buy your products?
Yeah, absolutely. So I tour all over the place. I live in Orlando, Florida, and if I can drive to you in under a day, I'll come to your school for free. You can send me a DM on Instagram, Author Timmy, or you can find me on Facebook, Timmy Bauer, or Timmy@booksforkidspodcast.com is my email. I would love to set up a visit at your school. And then my books are all on Amazon. So if you search Billy the Dragon, The Poisonous Woods, or Harper Hears No, they're all available on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. And we'll get those links and make sure we include those in our show notes because we put those on all of our show notes and our website.
Yeah, and anytime you have something come up, let us know. Once a guest on our show, always a guest
Always
on
a
our
guest.
show.
You are always at our table. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, you're here permanently. But we do like to share about things that are happening in the lives of people who join us.
We're going to switch over to Cassie here and let her share.
I have an Instagram account you can follow me at. It's my educational Instagram account where I like to share the ups, downs, lefts, and rights of an elementary school teacher. And that's Miss Jo, MSJO_MES. So Ms. Joe _MES. I don't have many followers. I'm not one of those Instagram famous teachers, but I am a fun Instagram teacher.
Yes, you are. Yes,
So
you are.
feel free to follow me along on my
we
little
will,
journey.
We will include you on our show notes as well.
All right. Well, next week we'll be talking with Kelly Lewis and novelist Suzanne Woods Fisher about telling stories of foster care and adoption, which promises to be an interesting and powerful conversation. If you've not yet subscribed, please take a moment and do that. Then you'll be up on all the latest Afterword information and with links to guest resources such as those that Timmy and Cassie shared today. And as always, you are welcome at our table.